Morris Brown, what's going on, man? How are you?
Larry, how are you? Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Hey, my pleasure, man. My pleasure. Let's start out with something fun here. You're a junior, correct?
Correct. My dad
Yeah.
was Morris Sr., and he had a twilight in his mind of one day creating a Morris Jr., and here I am.
And here you are. All right. So let's go back to your childhood
Yeah.
and just some things that Morris Sr. taught you that was super influential in your life.
Well, basically, growing up, he was a strong, working, blue-collar guy, worked in the steel mill for 20, actually more than 20 years. And he just came home, you know, feeling good about his work and being able to provide for his family. But back in that era, there was a lot of, racial tension going on. So he come home kind of frustrated because of his work environment. And he always told me, he said, Joey, because my middle name is Joseph. He's like, Joey, make sure you're good to all people so that you can get that same feeling back. Like the Bible says, do unto others as you want done to yourself. So he was always like that and tried to instill that in me, just to be nice to people in general so we can have a more cohesive, experience, whatever the case may be, even under tough circumstances.
Now you come across to me as just a very calming individual. Like I've
Yeah.
only known you for a few minutes, but is this how you operate? Just you seem
Yeah.
just very chill.
I am very chill. I mean, I used to have a jazz radio show in college called Mo in the Morning, and I played
Really?
smooth jazz. Just woke people up at
There
six
it is.
o'clock.
Give me your best morning show, smooth jazz morning with Morris. Let's hear it,
Oh,
man.
put me on the spot. Uh, hey, this is Mo in the Morning here at 6 a.m., ready to wake you up for the day. Let's get your day started with a little Al Jarreau here on 94.7 The Wave.
Look at that. Man, I'm gonna have you start doing voiceovers for me if that's cool. You do my intro or something.
There you go.
Very cool, man. Well, you're here because you've you have done something, man, that I think is so incredibly inspirational. Number
Mm,
one, you're a girl dad.
right.
The audience has known me for almost 10 years doing this show. They know that I'm a dude dad, right? So I have
Yeah.
all dudes in my family. So guys, whenever I do a show that we can help the guys out there who are raising these young ladies.
Right.
But you've done something really cool. You've written 11 books about experiences with your daughters, man. That is
Actually,
so cool.
actually, it's 21,
21?
but
Are my notes wrong?
no, the other 10 are in the works.
What?
Yeah, because
Get out.
yeah, I give you a little backstory on this. Uh, when the kids were little still, and we went all these parks. I said, I've got to write a book one day about our adventures. This would be a fun read for somebody's parents. So I got busy with life, and then years later, when COVID hit, I said, "Wow, we're all stuck in the house here. What am I going to do?" I said, maybe pull that idea about hanging with the girls out of the closet and start working on it." And I wrote 800 pages of our childhood experiences with my daughters. It was a phone book. And I'm like,
800 pages.
800 pages. And I'm like, wow, this is a lot. So I said, let me keep the second half for my part two and then write this first half. So that's what was released as 400 pages. So I had a honking phone book that was a huge book. And I was like, wow, this is a big book for kids to hold. So my publisher said, Morris, maybe you ought to reformat that. So I reformatted the 400 pages down to 11 smaller books. So that's what they are now.
I can't even. How many pages on average are your 11
They're
books?
like about 40, 50 pages a piece for these
That
11 books.
that's unreal that you were able to condense that much information down to that.
Yeah, and like I
That's
said, there's 11 or 10 more to go that are in the works, which are
that
part
is
of the eight,
unreal.
part of the 800. Those the other 400. Yeah.
That is unreal, my friend, and good on you for that. I'm curious. What inspired this? I mean, obviously I know COVID and all that, but like, what
Uh-huh.
inspired you wanting to do this?
I think it was that we went to so many parks, and I was like one of those dads that I said 30 years ago, if I ever have kids, I'm going to be the best dad I can be in the whole world, and I want to be a great dad. Because growing up in Chicago, I saw every type of family structure that was available. I saw friends of mine who, the dad was not there. I had friends of mine who the mom was not there. I had friends of mine who were latchkey kids, and just different types of family structures that really kind of got to my mind at an early age, saying, "Well, I don't want to have a family like that. I want to have a great, structure and kind of a loving area for my kids to grow up in." So once I had kids and two girls, and people said, "Hey, Morris, you going to try for a boy?" And I said, "No, I'm good being a girl dad, like Kobe. He had all girls, and because I had friends who tried for boys, and they had, four more girls, and then finally got the boy. So I said, I'm happy with these two girls. So we went out to the parks all over Southern California, about 30 parks in total. At each park, it's a certain kind of thing when your kids look you in the eye and they have that little sparkle that shows that they love you. That's what hit me in the heart, was that when we go to the park and I see how much fun they were having, it was kind of like, thank you, Dad, for taking me here, and thank you for taking us out today, and thank you for taking us to these places, and wow. And I'd always see the adventure and the thanks without them even saying thank you in their eyes. And that nurtured in me to a point where once I said, "Hey, we've been to so many parks, and you guys have been so sweet and great." I mean, my daughters, not to brag, but they were the sweetest kids to raise. I mean, I go to their schools and see kids that are misbehaving and doing this and doing that, and my kids were sitting there like little angels. And I mean, they weren't perfect, but my kids, in the way I raised them, like you said, you notice me being this calm kind of guy. I try to convey that to them and say, hey, just, life is crazy enough without being crazy. Let's just be a mellow, loving family that has this unity and bond between us. So having all of that, I said, I got to put this on paper to share with people as a possible inspiration. I mean, it was initially a gift to my kids. That was the main first idea. But then I said, hey, maybe I'll actually put this up on, Amazon or Barnes and Noble and see what happens. And it's been selling. It sold some in Poland, Italy. And I just did a book fair where a lady took some to Africa to read to the kids in Africa. So I'm
Oh
like,
my
wow,
gosh,
wow, this is a worldwide thing here.
that is so awesome.
Yeah.
You mentioned this going about life with patience and, you know, life can be crazy enough. We don't have to be crazy along with it.
Yeah.
And raising multiple children and being a dad, being a provider, being a husband, there's a lot of opportunities to unleash that crazy, unleash that, like our patience level, right? Our
Yeah.
presence level, even like we call it the hamster wheel that never gets shut off.
Uh,
How have you been able to do that over the years and do it well?
well, the key thing you have to do, in my advice, would be you have to silo your emotions. And what I mean by that is, say, for example, with cops or people who have come back from Vietnam or some war torn part of the world, they come back with PTS, post traumatic stress, and they take it out on their family. We all have stress, whether it be on our job or whatever. I had stress on my job, but I made sure when I walked in the door and I saw this little baby sitting on the couch, and she spit her pacifier out and ran toward me and grabbed my leg. I said, she doesn't need to know about my stressful day. Let me just give her the love and her give me the love, and we reciprocate this love. And that's going to be my therapy there. And being a parent and seeing your kid, come and grab you like that and hug you and say, Daddy, glad you're home. And it's like, wow, it kind of melts away your stress of the day just by having that love.
That's so cool, man. What do you think is as I think about just a day in the life of the dads, right? And that is such a great example of, I think, the mindset that you bring in, right? Of, hey, I'm here for these kids. I'm not, my stress of the day was the stress of the day. What do you think is is the hardest part about disconnecting from that for men in general? Because this is a battle that men face on the daily.
Well, like I mentioned earlier with my dad, he dealt with a lot of, you know, racial things on his job. And even in 2024, there's still that in corporate America, all over the world, there's some level of issue of race relations around the world. So that type of stress was part of the stress that I came with because I'm not your typical African American in the sense that I'm a college professor. I'm articulate. I know what I'm talking about. Fairly handsome, and a lot of people, an ex athlete, could have gone to the NFL. And I came into corporate America with this whole gung ho, I'm just fresh off the football field, work, work, work mentality. And a lot of people can't deal with that. They have you in a preconceived little box, how they think you should be. And when you break their preconceived notion is an issue.
Mm-hmm.
And I dealt with that a lot, but I dealt with it very diplomatically, non-violently, and this didn't bring it home. I just said, this is not worth. Even my wife would ask, how was your day? And I'd say, I had some issues, but it was okay. So I wouldn't get into full detail, but the way I release, because the thing for parents is you have to have some type of release. That's
Mm-hmm.
the main point. And as an athlete growing up, I was always in the weight room and pumping iron. And as I've gotten older, I've continued my workout regimen. I still go to the gym 3 times a week. I ride my bike 7 days a week. I play tennis 2 or 3 times a week. So I, keep my body going. And even though I had kids and I started to get a little dad bod for a minute there, turned into a pair, I made sure that I still got to the gym or some type of self-love and self-therapy for yourself. I'm also a composer. I play guitar, bass, and piano, and had a song picked up by Michael Jackson way back in the day. He didn't use it. And
What?
yeah, I got a song picked up by Michael Jackson and a few others
Dang.
that were swiped. And I'm currently working on 2 songs for Michael McDonald.
No way.
Yeah.
That is awesome, man. That is
Yeah.
awesome. So you had an opportunity to go to the NFL?
Yeah, I played football from Chicago. Then we came to California, went to Santa Monica College, was All American at Santa Monica College, JC. Then I was talking to all these schools, Oklahoma, I had met Barry Switzer, Hayden Fry out at Iowa at the time, and Terry Donahue at UCLA, and all these different big, Pac-10 and Big Ten schools. And this little school I had never heard of came in called Fresno State. And they came and picked me up in a Learjet at the Santa Monica airport. And they let me fly it part of the way back to Fresno. And I'm like, and then I got there and met the staff and went to the campus, and no school pampered me like that. And when I had like 20 schools after me. And as an 18-year-old, your brain is in a frenzy. You're all over the place, and you're like, who I sign with? What do I do? Do I go to Oklahoma with the big tradition of the Sooners, or do I go to UCLA? And I really wanted to go to UCLA, but they didn't recruit me hard. They just kind of came in and said, "Oh, you're all American, okay." Terry Donahue, he'll talk to you. I never really kind of heard back. And then Fresno came in full force and recruited me hard. And they showed me talked to my coaches who would be my coaches, and I kind of felt this kind of a love there. So I signed with those guys. And after my career, we won the bowl games and all of that. I had a chance to go to the NFL. I was talking to the Seattle Seahawks, Dallas Cowboys, and the Chicago Bears. And basically I majored in television broadcasting, as you can mention in my broadcast presence, because I wanted to be this big Steven Spielberg, Spike Lee, director and Hollywood kind of guy. And because when I was young in Chicago, we had a little home camera and we made like little movies, little mini movies. So I got this bug for directing as a kid, and then when I got to college and I got the opportunity to come to Hollywood, I said, football, Hollywood. I loved football, and my family said, "Oh, go to the pros and make that money first, then you can do television." And I said, I think I want to go to Hollywood. So I went to Hollywood, and there was some hindsight thinking years later. I was like, well, I could have played with some of my buddies who went to, like Henry Eller, who played for the Rams. It was a star receiver back in the day. He was my teammate at Fresno, and Fresno has got a lot of great guys that came out of there. I mean, Derek and David Carr, they were Derek was for the Raiders for many years and just went to New Orleans, and a bunch of guys have come out of Fresno and done well. So it's a powerhouse school. But I love my decision, and I worked for some time in television as an editor and director and had my own production company. And then I transitioned to teaching at UCLA and taught three successful courses at UCLA for many years. And they had a small article write-up about my class in Harper's Bazaar magazine. And people in corporate America saw that and said, "Hey, come work for us." And I'm like, my background's in television. What am I going to do in corporate America? And they said, "Well, we have this proprietary software. Maybe you can come in and learn this and then teach it to our staff." So the first job I got after UCLA was with a company called Grass Valley, who specializes in hardware and software for television. So it was kind of in my industry. So that was my first corporate gig.
Wow. That is, maybe I should just ask what you don't do. Might be, might be shorter. And so it's like football, composer, broadcasting, author, professor. Like, man, it's unreal. The background. That's pretty cool stuff, man.
Yeah, I was always an inquisitive kid and wanted to have my hands in lots of different things. And that inquisitive nature, I think, really pushed me to try different things in life. I mean, I tell people about my career and you go, "Wow, you've done so many things." I'm like, "Oh, this is amazing." And each one had its own level of fun. I mean, the football was fun. The television career was fun. Raising my kids was fun. Writing the books was fun. And now, after all of the things that I've done and the kids are big and out of the house and I have an empty nest, it's like, what does daddy want to do now? So I think, I'm a movie buff. I love movies and I love film scores in movies. And I just wrote a piece not too long ago that has this kind of a film score, Hans Zimmer type of ending. So I was like, I think that's my calling, is a film score composer. So I just got a brand new keyboard and I'm starting to work on some of my symphonic stuff.
Man, that might be Christopher Nolan calling you now, wanting
Yeah,
you to
exactly.
wanting you to do the next Batman movie or something like that with Hans. So,
Yeah.
uh, well, let's get back to raising girls, raising daughters,
Yes.
right? So, uh, like I said, guys are always so keen on listening to the podcast episodes that where there's girl dads, right? Where there's, and I want you to really share with us what was key for you raising these young ladies to raise strong, confident young women.
Well, you know, there's a couple of things. I had the hindsight of my parents. My mother and my father were just like an iron fist as far as how they dealt with family, but they were loving. They weren't overbearing, but they told you, they were from the old school. You do this and do this, clean your room and do this. It wasn't military, but it was in a way that, we got some foundation as far as how you should respect your parents and how you should raise your kids. And my dad, as I mentioned, going to the barber shop, my dad would brag about. So he built self-confidence and made me feel that my self-worth, because he would go to the barber shop and, "This is my boy, Morris Jr." And I get all, giddy, and all his friends were like, "Wow, this is Morris Jr., fantastic." So he made me feel of worth. And I think that's important for a parent, is to instill that you are important, you are invaluable to me. I love you. And I want to show you this through, you know, nonverbal communication, verbal communication, and trying to be the best parent that I can be. So, one thing I didn't mention is that when I met my girlfriend, then eventually wife, and she had, gotten pregnant, I was like, I want to be the best dad in the world at that time, thinking back to my childhood. So I said, what can I do? So I wrote my first book called Fetal Stimulation, the Fetal Training Program. It was on fetal stimulation and behavioral genetics. And it was how to increase the intelligence of the fetus before it was born
Wow.
by producing a extended growth level of synaptic connections in the brain. We're born with a certain amount of synaptic connections in the brain. I wanted to accelerate that through a protocol of exercises that would enhance growth in a fetal brain. And I did all the techniques that I had devised, and my hypothesis was that if you stimulate the sperm and the egg even before intercourse, that transference of stimulation transfers to the sperm and the egg and actually has a interaction which allows for a higher level of synaptic growth. Now that was my hypothesis, but my kid came out sharp as a tack. I mean, she eventually went over to Canterbury and got her degree in international business over in London, and is this sharp kid even to this day. I mean, I have a great level of common sense. She's like on 10 of me. She's like this so straightforward, 2 plus 2 makes 4. And then she just, her calculating mind is just incredible. So, so I try to help my kids even before they were born. So that's the type of tenacity that I had going into it. And then once, because the woman who I married, she already had a 1 year old, which is my older daughter. So now I had baby on the way, and finally was born, and then the younger daughter who she had. So I had 2 girls, and I was like, why? Everybody wants a boy. Every dad wants a boy. I say, I'm gonna, just like my dad was named me Morris Jr. I wanted a boy, of course, but when I got 2 girls and I saw the beauty and the innocence and just the wildness of having a kid, because after I did all that training for my first book that I just mentioned, when she was born in the hospital, they put her in a little tray and she was crying, and then I went over there and whispered in her ear. I said, Daddy's right here. And she immediately, quieted down and grabbed my hand. So we had this connection from early on. So once they grew up together, I said, okay, let's go have some fun, because I was always out of the house. We didn't have cell phones when I was a kid. So it was a sin to be in the house when I was a kid. We were always out on our bikes, playing football, playing baseball, doing some form of activity. And I'm still active to this day. I still play tennis. I still go to the gym. I still ride my bike 7 days a week. So I said, I want to have healthy kids, because I see some parents come to school and they're feeding their kids for breakfast those little small donuts. And I'm like, donuts for breakfast? I'm like, oh boy, So I said, I want to have healthy kids, vibrant kids. And they may come back and say, Daddy was like a football coach. He had us running and got up and down the hills, this and that. And, I did have them running and doing different exercises, but I really kind of left them to their own devices to have fun in the park and just be a kid.
Hmm.
But I would be involved in that as well and play.
I think that's one of the coolest things when you go to a park or you go to a public pool
Yeah.
or something like that, and we're all playing together, and it disappoints me. And I'm not saying I've always been the guy playing with my kids, I would say 80% of the time I play with my kids. You know,
Yeah.
if I look back on all my history at parks with my kids,
Mm.
I have been at times that dad who sits there on his phone. It hasn't been very often, but I always try to make a point every time I'm at a park. You know, my 8-year-old, he loves to play the game Monster, which
Yeah.
is basically just me chasing him around, see if I can catch him, which I never can.
Yeah.
So he's a lot faster than me.
Mm.
But you know that's really cool. I think that those are a lot of things that are lost now, and I think you know the more we can do life with kids like that, play with our kids, like because
Yeah.
here's the really cool thing. I think a lot of us miss the opportunity to almost be a kid again when it comes to playtime. I mean, they need a dad, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But when it comes to playtime, like we can play, like we can be that playful father. And it sounds like for you that was something really important to you.
Yeah, because as I mentioned, as a kid myself, I always played. So playing was a part of my nature. And my dad and mom would take me out to the beach and to the park, and we go walk and we go run. So that foundation was already there. So once I had my kids, I'm like, let me continue this tradition of fun. So we'd go out and just have some amazing adventures at the park. I mean, some were wonderful, some were, kind of like, wow, what's happening here? We had this homeless person, attack us at a park. So,
What?
yeah, it was, we were at the park going to play tennis because me and my kids played tennis when they were young. And we went to the park one day here in Santa Monica, and I was shining a new car. I just got a new car. So I'm shining my car. My daughter's in the passenger seat in the front waiting for daddy to get finished polishing the car so we can go to the tennis courts that are across the street at the beach. So I see a homeless guy way across the parking lot, and he has a tennis racket in his hand. And I'm like, homeless, I guess he just got to get a workout too. Even though he's homeless, he's going to get a workout, maybe play some tennis. So he starts walking, he gets closer to my car. I'm like, oh, what's this guy doing? And then he goes, wham, wham, breaks out the back tail light of my car.
What?
I go back there, what the blankety blank blank? And then he starts walking toward my daughter on her side.
Oh dear God.
So I start hauling after this guy. I play football, so it was all into football mode at that point. And I grabbed this guy, picked him up, and commenced to just give it him all that I had. And then I go back to the car, and my daughter's, crying, oh, daddy, daddy. And I'm trying to think, should I wait for the police or should I call the police or whatever? We just left. We come back to that park a week later, and we're down in the tennis courts now. And then my daughter says,
No.
Dad, I think I see the guy who hit your
No.
car last week. I look over there, it's him.
You gotta be kidding me.
I go running out there, getting this guy's face. I'm like, what is going on? What's happening? I just all this conversation. I said, get in here and apologize to my daughter right now. So I bring him into the tennis courts. He apologizes to my daughter, so I kind of feel bad for him. And I'm like, man, why did you hit my car? Why did you attack us? And he said, well, somebody in my head told me to do it and blah, blah, blah. So poor guy's homeless, probably has some mental issues or whatever. I felt sorry for him. He had his tennis racket. So I said, hey, man, you want to play some tennis?
No, get out of here. Come on.
And we played tennis like two buddies for half an hour. And he was pretty good for a homeless guy. And 3 weeks, go by. I see him like once a week. And we play tennis like once a week. And after that, I never see him again. So that's one of the stories in the book.
Morris, I've heard some stories on this podcast. Being attacked by a homeless guy and then, turns out he's one of your tennis buddies moving forward.
Yeah.
That one I haven't heard. I'm so curious. I mean, I only see you from the chest up, but you look like a big dude. How tall are you?
Back in my playing days, I was about 6'2", about 255, 260. As I've gotten a little older, Now I'm 6'2", about 300, but it's all solid. I have a little bit of body fat, but for the most part, I don't lift heavy as I used to, but I still work out. So people see me and say, "You don't look 300 pounds."
Man, so this guy was probably like, all right, who can I go attack that could end my life? And maybe you were that guy. What?
I think back on it. I'm like, what was this guy thinking?
What was he thinking? Yeah. That's
I guess
crazy,
mentally he
man.
wasn't all there or something. But in the end, we were friends, so it turned out positive.
That is unreal, man. That is unreal.
And then all the other 10 books have their own stories of different things that happen here, and it's about 95% real life autobiographical, and about 5% fiction thrown in for fun. So
I like it, man. I'm actually on your site right now,
yeah.
looking at these books. A day in the park with your two kids, the down park, pushing Isaiah, the boy by himself at the park. What was that about?
Which one?
The boy by himself?
Yeah, that's a sad story. Also, Pushing Isaiah is a sad story. We went to this park in Santa Monica, and we just happened to be over there, and we see this little boy, on one of these benches, picnic tables, sitting all by himself, kind of looking down. And then he goes over there by the fence, and he's looking through the fence, and his dad's playing basketball with the fellas. So his kid's over here on the other side of the fence in the kid play area by himself, and the dad's playing basketball. And my kids go over there. Hey, you want to play? So they start playing with him and up on the apparatus and running around, and they're having a great time. And then as soon as they get done, the little kid gets sad because we're about to leave. And we'll say, well, maybe we'll see you again. Bye. And we never saw him again. So we called that the boy by himself part.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
What about the other one?
Pushing Isaiah is a heart-wrenching story. I'll tell you about this one. I told you my kids and I played tennis.
Yeah.
I was driving down the street one day here in LA, and I look to my right and I see some tennis courts that we hadn't been to before. So I go over there and I'm like, wow, this is some new courts. So I go check it out. Looks good. Next to the court is a park that the kids can play. So I go check out the park. And I'm over there looking around. There's lots of families out there. It's a warm day. And then I sit down for a minute because it was hot. And this one little boy comes running up to me. He says, hi. I'm like, how are you? How you doing there? And I was like, yeah, who are you here with? He's like, oh, my mom, she's over there. So I saw his mom. I kind of waved to her. And I'm like, well, what are you guys doing here today? What are you doing in the park? He says, and I couldn't believe what he said. This guy's about 6, 7 years old. He says, well, we're here waiting to get ready to go to court because my mom's on probation and we want to see if she's going to go in jail or she's going to be, the judge is going to be nice and let her, still be at home. And because she's with section 245 of the civil code, and he starts reciting all this courtroom civil code vernacular. And I'm like, my heart just dropped. I'm like, what is a poor kid, 6 or 7 year old? He's probably was drugged into court with his mom, and I'm not sure what happened with the dad and what went on there, but to see a kid have that type of life growing up, it just broke my heart. So all the kids were having fun in the park, and he started looking sad after he mentioned this to me. So I said, hey, do you want me to push you in the swing? He said, yeah. So I go over there, start pushing him in the swing. He was the happiest camper in the park that day for the 5 minutes that I pushed him. You could see the glee on his face. And then we went back over near his mom, and I said, well, his name was Isaiah. I said, well, Isaiah, I gotta go now, but it's a pleasure meeting you. He's like, yeah, have a nice day. So that's the story of Pushing Isaiah.
Wow. Wow. Your daughters got to see that, right?
That was one of the stories that the 5% fiction came in, because I put my daughters in the book as playing with him. Mm-hmm. But that real story behind that was the one I just told you of me just checking out these tennis courts and going to the park.
Okay.
I just incorporated my daughters in so it'd still be like we're at the park playing and so forth.
Man.
Yeah.
Bet that kid still remembers that to this day.
I wish I knew where he was. I would love to see
Yeah.
him again. He was a great kid, and his mom seemed like a nice lady, and but just know his. I mean, you should have heard this guy talking. I mean, he was like 6 or 7 years old and knew all this, like these codes of what a judge would tell a person if they're on probation or whatever. And I was like, wow,
Mm,
how does this kid?
too young for that.
Yeah.
That is unreal. Well, you're an incredible individual with an incredibly diverse background, and I'm so glad we got a chance to talk today. I want to make sure that the guys can find you, connect with you, all the girl dads out there. You got 11 books out there, 10 more on the way. What's the best way for guys to connect with you?
I'm on LinkedIn. My website has the contact information. They can leave their information there as well. So those are the two ways. You can also email on the website, leaving your information there as well. And we have various social media. We have some uh, Facebook and Instagram and YouTube as well, so you can check our social media stuff. Yeah, and just check our website and just do a search for Morris Brown author online, and lots of stuff will pop up. So a lot of places to connect.
Got it. Well, guys, not to worry. We'll have all the links in the show notes for you. Head on over to thedadedge.com/Friday159 for this show. Again, thedadedge.com/Friday159 for this show. Morris, thank you so much for coming on today, man. This was so much fun. And you're a good dude, a good man, a good girl dad, and just a good man. So thanks for what you're doing in the
Well,
world,
Larry,
man.
I appreciate you having me. I'm glad I found you on LinkedIn and did a search for girl dads, and you're the ones that popped up. So
All right, man.
let me,
There you go. Even though I'm not one, but I've interviewed a few.
yeah, let me contact this guy.
Yeah.
And it was a joy to be on here with you, Larry. I wish you much success with your family and your podcast, and many blessings for sure.
Back at you, man. Thank you.